Hello and welcome to Study with Sudhir. This is your digital classroom. My name is T.S. Sudhir. This is specifically for students of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana class 10 students and this is of the English syllabus, the textbook, and we are looking specifically at the unit theme of biodiversity, a tale of three villages. We have done the first two villages essays which are very real, very hard hitting and very important for all you young citizens to know the dangers of environmental pollution. We did a story, an essay from Nigeria, one from India, and the third one comes from Ukraine. But before I proceed, I want to tell you that on this channel we will be covering the entire English syllabus for both Andhra Pradesh and Telangana state board. So tune into this channel to get all the material so that you can revise it very well before you appear for your exam. So just subscribe and also press on the bell icon so that you can get all the regular notifications, right? Now, let's read this chapter and I hope you have your book in front of you so that you can underline the keywords. I keep saying this because it's very important to use words from your textbook in your answers because that will show that you are familiar, that you know the text that much better and that will give you extra and better marks. It happened on April the 26th, 1986. That's the day the Chernobyl disaster, nuclear disaster in a place called Chernobyl in USSR. At that time it was known as the Soviet Union or the USSR. Okay. Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, that's a full form of USSR. USA and USSR were the two big countries at that time which were engaged in a lot of rivalry, animosity and a Cold War. Okay, animosity again means rivalry and not liking each other. I remember the date because it was my mother's birthday. We heard the explosion early in the morning. So early in the morning at the Chernobyl nuclear plant, there was this explosion that took place on the 26th of April morning. We did not worry because there had been explosions before from Chernobyl. So people who lived in that vicinity, and this is talking specifically about Vorobyov village in Ukraine, which was part of the USSR. Now Ukraine is a separate country. You know, the entire Soviet Union USSR split up into several countries. But this one was bigger. Everyone stopped what they were doing and listened. Then we ran out into the garden. We could see a cloud of white smoke coming out from the nuclear reactor. Nuclear reactor essentially is something which is radioactive in nature, and if you are inhaling or coming into touch with a contact with any kind of radioactive waste, that can lead to death or absolute deformity of the body and the mind. Okay, so extremely dangerous in that sense, which is why in many parts of India also there are agitations whenever there is any move or any decision by the government to set up nuclear plants. For instance, there is an agitation which is taking place in north coastal Andhra Pradesh against setting up of a nuclear plant in that part of Andhra Pradesh. There is an agitation going on in Jaipur in Maharashtra, again locals protesting against the setting up of a nuclear plant. There was a huge protest which took place in Tamil Nadu, again people protesting, locals saying that, fishermen saying that we do not want this particular nuclear plant out here. But why do governments go in for nuclear plants? Because they believe that nuclear power will be much better than your usual thermal power and hydel power, because these are seen as polluting, whereas nuclear power will be much more efficient in the longer run. What is not known to the people is that if precautions are not taken as far as the leakage is concerned, like what happened in Chernobyl, things can be an absolute disaster. Okay. Natasha Revenko wiped her hands nervously on her apron. Apron is something which you wear while you are cooking or washing vessels. So this entire thing is told by this lady called Natasha Revenko. Tears came to the corners of her eyes by seeing what she was seeing right in front of her and slid slowly down her pinched pale cheek. So you are being given a kind of a description of what Natasha looked like. You know, she was a frail kind of a person, not a very healthy looking person, pale cheeks, not very kind of, you know, rosy cheeks, which convey better health. So it also kind of shows that over a period of time, perhaps people in that vicinity of this particular nuclear reactor in Chernobyl had got affected as a result of the whatever work was happening at that nuclear reactor. It was a Saturday. She went on, still wiping her hands on the apron. It was a lovely warm day and the children played outside all weekend. Even when the dust began to fall, when this explosion has happened and then these dust particles have gone in the air, the dust particles kept coming down onto the earth. They still played outside. Those are children who are being exposed to this radioactive dust. Extremely, very dangerous. They even picked up handfuls of it, which is a complete no-no. They should not have done it, but people obviously were not aware of the dangers. They picked up handfuls of it and threw it at each other, thinking of it as though, you know, they can play games with it. Laughing. It was Wednesday before the loudspeaker van came to the village telling us to keep our children indoors. So from Saturday to Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days, all this activity was happening with every person in the village, including the children, being exposed to this very dangerous and harmful radioactive waste. Only on Wednesday, 4 days later, the authorities sent a loudspeaker van to tell the villagers to be indoors, and especially the children, and not to touch the radioactive dust. They told us to wash down our houses and roads with water. They said all the houses, the walls, which also would have a lot of this radioactive dust, should be washed with water. Also the roads should be washed. A week later, the children began to vomit. So the after effects of having come into contact with the radioactive waste, you know, which is the waste from these nuclear reactors, extremely dangerous, poisonous, they started to take its effect. Their hair fell out, you know, they started losing their hair, you know, like what happens when you undergo chemotherapy for cancer. They could not eat. They grew so thin and sores appeared all over their little bodies, you know, small developing skin diseases. 2 weeks after that, all three died. All the three children died. All three on the same day. So look at the tragedy that has struck the people of Vorobyov village because of their proximity, their nearness to the Chernobyl reactor, nuclear reactor. She broke down now, that is Natasha, and cried quietly as she had done so many times before. They are buried over there. You know, the graves of those three children were there they were near. She pointed to the church graveyard, the graveyard at the church. Lots of village children are and adults. So now over a period of time, initially those three children died and thereafter many more children and also adults died because of their exposure to the radioactive waste. I touched her gently on the shoulder, leaving her to her bittersweet memories. Why bitter? Because of what had happened to the people in the village, including the children. Why sweet? Because the memories of a happy life were there before this kind of a tragedy struck. And walked on through the silence. It was a ghost town. Why is it a ghost town? Because there is no life anymore there. It's almost like a happy village. A village where a lot of people, children playing around, cackling, you know, quarreling, throwing things on each other. They used to love playing games out there. From that, everybody, so many people had died, which is why it's been referred to as a ghost town. No one lived there anymore. They had either died or been forcibly evacuated. So either they had died and their bodies were there, they had been buried at the church graveyard, or they had been asked by the government to get out, you know, forcibly asked to leave Vorobyov village. The fields were barren. The fields were barren because of the radioactive waste. It had all been poisoned. Nothing could grow. So they were all completely waste fields. Nothing grew. Nothing ever would again. Nothing grew now, and even in the future, nothing would ever grow. There was no bird song because even the birds were dead. So there were no birds to sing songs. No rabbit peered at me. No rabbits also. There is no rabbit also. There is no life, which is why it's been referred to as a ghost town. No cow endlessly chewed. No horse neighed. So it's giving you a sense of no human life, no plant life, no animal life, no bird life. You understand? So when you are writing these answers, you need to mention this fact about each and everything. It's not just human beings who have been affected. The fields, the vegetation, the flora and fauna has been affected. The animal life has been affected. No cows, no horses, no rabbits, and no birds also. Right? Natasha caught me up as we boarded the bus marked Moscow. So from there in Ukraine, near Chernobyl, they are going to Moscow, which was the capital of USSR. Now it's the capital of Russia. Thank you for coming with me, she said. I wanted to see the graves in the house again before I die. So two things here, a sense of longing, a sense of sadness, a sense of nostalgia for the place, a happy village which had been converted now into a ghost town. And because she had come with this particular person, she had been able to see those graveyards, the graves at the church graveyard again, and she said, I wanted to see them, right? And the house where they lived. Before I die. Before I die gives you a sense that even Natasha's death possibly is near. She's also waiting for death. So the death has become the only thing which they kind of look forward to. That is the only reality of their life. Very, very ironical. Death becoming the reality of life. They all waiting for their death, which will eventually come. In the case of the children, because they were young children, it came very early, right? And many adults also died over a period of time. No bird life, no plant life, no animal life. Everything dead. The field has been left barren. And this lady, Natasha, also says, before I die, I wanted to see. So she's also thinking that even her days are numbered, in the sense that even she does not have many days to live. So that is as far as this particular story is concerned. Again, the questions will come which will test you on your knowledge and familiarity with the text in this particular essay. There is an interesting question which has come as far as the writing is concerned. I would really urge you students to attempt something like this. If you are a TV, a dialogue between you and the TV newsreader. Our correspondent reports from Coco village. What is the situation there? How do you find the village? What are the people around saying? So it kind of gives you a sense of imagination, but using the facts which have been given in the essay, how do you structure something like this? Maybe you would like to attempt something like this. So this is as far as the environment, biodiversity chapter, A Tale of Three Villages is concerned. I hope it's very clear. It's very useful from an examination point of view. So do revise this particular chapter. Look at the video lessons, understand the concepts, understand the questions and what kind of answers you need to write in this particular essay. Thank you very much for watching.